And we're live.
Oh, good.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's been a while.
For us. You guys don't know that.
Yeah, you don't give a shit.
Or know that.
What do we Steak Knife Show episode 7? 8?
Yeah, this is number 7, I believe.
Cool. What are we talking about?
I don't know. You want to talk about what we were going to talk about? I kind of feel like the vibe's off for that today. Personal responsibility in your own training.
Why? Because I didn't take enough personal responsibility in cleaning my legs, so I didn't get staph infection. I almost died.
Yeah. He's not being dramatic. That's actually that's factually true. Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't great. First brush with staph. That was super cool.
That's part of it. Clean your ass. Wash yourself.
I am not a dirty bird,
He's not.
but stuff happens. That
Yeah.
stuff lives on you. So like, it was a toenail cut, and it turned into something really serious very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. But I don't know. We can like personal responsibility of training. Like that's just kind of
For your own training.
so like, it's such a topic. Like I guess you should be training. If you're watching us and you just watch us in the background or whatever, like I get it, but like you should do something. And like even to the point that like I'm begging, like even if you're playing rec league, drunk, soccer or volleyball, like at this point that's the most I hope for. Like boxing is okay.
Yeah.
Finding wrestling as an adult is hard unless you're gonna find a gym that has it. I off the top of my head I can think of maybe 1 or 2 gyms that hold like an actual wrestling class. Like that's just takedown oriented. Takedowns suck. Like I mean, I love takedowns and I always go to takedowns, but like it's hard, especially older people. Like
I can't remember who I was talking to, and like speaking of something like that, like they were saying that like a lot of like academies in Japan, like if it's like specifically their police because they're required because they have previously a martial culture before America neutered it, but like you see most of them starting Niwaza, so on the ground. Like if they're older officers and stuff like that, they're not expecting them to start like judo throwing takedowns like Randori.
My original judo club in Pickle Judo and Jiu-Jitsu here in Ohio, like what you saw a moment like when these monster black belts all of a sudden only did Newaza, but it's judo Newaza. It's not Jiu-Jitsu. Now that being said, like you ever make the mistake of rolling with a true like judo black belt, you'll know immediately. Like the pins are different. Like it's a horrific place to be, and it nullifies a lot of jiu-jitsu. But in terms of like responsibility, like it's the same thing as like finding motivation. Like Planet Fitness really gets you because like you have to go up in person and listen to their "please don't leave us" sales spiel, right? Like, but like finding like there are times even I like, especially after like a hard shift or something, like man, I really don't want to go to boxing or I really don't want to go to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But like you have to go. But like it's one of those like that's what discipline is.
Well, and that's like you can even like from my perspective, I'm older than you and I haven't been training as long as you, but don't take me as an example. I'm kind of a weirdo in general. Like physically, like I don't look like much, but I can train a lot and recover very well actually for my age. But yeah, you kind of go, and like if you are older, just know like okay, like there are certain things I'm gonna like allow and not. Like I'm going to train a certain way. Like if I am feeling like tired, or like if I need to warm up, like I'll very carefully like pick my role.
Well, and like it comes down to like there's even some. I guess I don't have it so much in grappling, but if I'm doing like MMA or striking, like there are just some people like I will only do MMA rounds with because if I get in trouble, I'm going to drag it to the ground.
Yeah.
Or like, okay, like if it is, say it is boxing or Muay Thai, like my whole goal is to make them chase me. Like I'm never going to stand anywhere for them to actually hit me. Like
yeah, you're going to cardio them out.
It's going to be the shittiest round for them, but like it's going to be, I'm going to work on head movement.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and make sure that they only hit like this side of my body, like something like that. In terms of like discipline and like taking care of your own stuff, I'm a weird one. I kind of like I have a home gym, Ronin Training Center, but like I train at like everywhere because every gym has a specific style, I guess. I don't know, like Grove City's a leg locking gym. I hate when you do this. I
So the pain of being the producer and the
okay.
you're fading out of frame.
All right.
Ball.
Well, I'm just gonna let you cut it.
That
Just start at the top of what I was saying.
gyms you go to.
Yeah. All right. So coming up, like I trained everywhere, and I trained everywhere because Ronin is really a conglomerate. Like they were probably one of the best Muay Thai, if not the best in the Midwest Muay Thai programs. They have a competitive jiu-jitsu program. They offer judo and Krav Maga and all these things, and then they have a good MMA team. But like then they know leg locks. I mean, you got Jacob Howarth, you got Drew Cook, who are all teaching like good leg lock stuff. But like Grove City is the leg lock kings of Columbus.
Yeah.
Like they just are. So like I was like, all right, well I'm gonna go train there. I've lost the last 7 to
Two leg locks.
I'm gonna go train there. And then in terms of like close guard, like Mike McLean in my
Gracie, Ohio.
Gracie, Ohio, but like
Yeah.
it started with Tyler Buchner, but like Mike McLean really shored up my close guard game, and which is embarrassing to say. It took me to brown belt to have like a decent close guard, but like,
But I mean, I've all like, and I'm a blue belt, but I've also gone against people that are higher belts that are like completely lacking in areas that, as a blue belt, I have something for them.
well,
So like I get that. Like you can say like, oh, this is a big hole. Like, but some people just like they do well with what they have.
yeah, and then Endeavor has that like dynamic, like everybody there is tough, and like Cheney is like really letting you kind of make your own styles, but like you don't have like a bunch of Jack and Jills of all trades, right?
I was gonna say we're all moderately well-rounded. Like
Right.
nobody's terrible at one thing, and then some people are really good at certain things, but they've developed those kind of like, hey, you're gonna develop this. Here's some answers, or here's a person I know. Like, go
Well,
to them.
and it worked out in terms of like, especially on like Mondays and Tuesdays, like drop the girls off at school, meet up with you, train at Grove City, train at Endeavor,
Yep.
pick the girls up, end up at Ronin, like
Yeah.
whatever. Like, so like it fit my day schedule well. But I say that to say in terms of like discipline, like I just had to take a step back as a competitor and be like, okay, like I'm losing to this. So like it just didn't make sense not to go, especially being a sister school.
Yeah.
And then, same thing with Triumph, like go up to Dan Siegel's Triumph Jiu-Jitsu, and like, he has guys who are so good, like Charlie Mike. Like I started wrist locking because of Charlie Mike, and it like opened up a whole new pathway of like, just attacking even from standing, like doing, once you wrist lock somebody and they're scared to grab you, like you kind of have your whole drop down box of takedowns because they don't know where to put their hands.
Yeah.
Like, so like you have like, I don't know.
We're kind of running it. Let's put it this way. Like, if I remember correctly, like judo is kind of supposed to distill like the major concepts of jujitsu, like the 7 schools, right, into like one kind of thing, right? And I think now we're at an era where like you're going to run into those like people where like that skill set is kind of like niche, and so you're going to have to go pick it up.
Judo is
like,
actually like, I love like it's my original art and it's beautiful, but like they really are kind of, I don't even know if you're really neutering it at this point. Like there's a lot of like, it's really, I mean, anymore, like you should just do jiu-jitsu, like find a school that has a judo black belt and modified it judo for jiu-jitsu, like,
and no-gi jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and no-gi. That's the real one. If you can do judo takedowns within no-gi, like, it is really hard to prepare for.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot with like just the foot sweep. Like BT has really taken that and ran with it. Like it's awesome. Like to see that stuff.
Well, what they, and at New Wave they have an Olympic black belt that modifies everything to no-gi. I can't remember his name, but he comes in and like does rounds with them and stuff.
I don't see anything about.
I know.
I only see BTs.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't
They don't really put out a ton of stuff.
Like, yeah, probably for the best though, because they're keeping their secrets.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. So yeah, you should be disciplined and like.
And if you're new to training, shoot for once a week. And then if you can have the capacity to do more, do more. But like, don't kill yourself, especially if you're older. Like find a balance.
I would say more. I would say twice a week. Twice a week is what you should shoot for, especially if
I'm saying like
going to a class.
starting. Like if you're just starting,
I don't know, maybe. But
you may not have like remembering where I was when I first started. Once was enough, and I tried to go for 2 hours at one shot.
okay, 2 hours.
Like
if you're going for 2
yeah, like
Some classes are only an hour. That's
right. That's what I'm saying.
At the very least, be doing 2 hours.
Yeah, if it's an hour-long class, hit up another class. Maybe find one that you ask the instructors, like, is this a lower intensity class? Or is like one a fundamentals class and then one is a class where you're going to learn more about open rolling? Or like if it's a striking class, is one more just like, this is like baseline technique and some like workout stuff that's going to help build a fighting skill.
And where this kind of stemmed from is like in emergency services, like the never ending thing is like, oh, I don't have time to train. And I'm just like, man, like really? Like you don't have time to do like literally the thing that you need to do under stress.
Yep.
Like, but you're gonna go hunt, or you're gonna all get together and play video games, or you're gonna go to the bar and drink, which is fine. Like I used to do that. But like
Yeah.
there was always time for training. It just has to. You have to make it a priority. And if you're in emergency services, and let me clarify. When I say emergency services, because like we work the security side. Never forget that there is a response time. So if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you're an EMT, like we're not going to be there for. I think
We're not
we
the
have a good
Flash.
response time. Like we when we collapse on a problem.
Yeah.
like, that's in the hospital.
If you were talking comparatively, and I'm not going to give exact times because I don't have data in front of me, and that's not fair to what we do or anybody else. But like if you're talking comparing us to policing, our response time is lightning
fast.
But
like,
and I'm not knocking policing. I'm just saying there's two different worlds.
But this is a statistic that carried over from Jason Apt and the Columbus State Self-Defense Program. Like most assaults are done and over with in like under a minute.
Yeah.
So like, and just this, like, if you're unfamiliar with violence, most of us, like everybody talks about fight or flight, right? Mm-hmm. The real F that nobody ever talks about is freezing.
Easy.
And you get these trauma zombies who like are experiencing trauma. Like in ours, it's a patient who needs help. They act out, and usually in an aggressive physical manner. And like I remember I took a report at SPCA's like, yeah, he kicked me like 6 or 7 times in the chest. I said, why did you move?
Yeah.
He's like half bound to the bed. Just take 2 steps back.
Yeah. Like,
well, I didn't want him to fall. Well, I don't care how much care this patient needs. You don't need to stand here and be assaulted. And now you look like you're seriously injured. You need to go to the emergency room now. Like there was no reason for that. So even if you would have had like a baseline of like Krav Maga, like
and what he's saying is like a baseline of awareness, like this is happening, I need to back up.
Right.
You've been exposed to that violence, like a level of violence in a controlled setting inside of a gym, then translating it to the reality of like, okay, they may fall, but they are being violent, so they have made a choice.
I think
that lack of separation in thought is like very big for a lot of people, and I would say like probably it's a skill in law enforcement that takes years to develop sometimes.
I think the thing that I would like to see is people, and it's almost like it is developing a sixth sense of like, you just kind of, people who have trained, like I've noticed nurses who like, oh, they're like, I do like women's self-defense every week. Yeah. And like they kind of blade and they fade. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're, because like I'm catching signs from that patient.
Right.
Or that bad guy, if it's somebody, a visitor or whatever. But I was like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, like I remember there's an EMT that always showed up when I was a police officer, and he and I like became friends, and he's like, oh, I box. I said, oh, like, because he would blade and he'd use other EMTs or us
as shields.
He'd shield.
Yeah.
Like he's ready to get in there and help once control's established.
Right.
Like he just kind of learned a sense that I don't do that. Right. And it kind of becomes like, the best way I can say is like you're like a parent. Like if you're a parent, like when your first kid like is like tugging on your, like you're trying to do dishes and get this together and this, and like it's too much, and then by like your second or third kid you're just like, nah, like you can kind of almost like see what they're going to do and redirect them, as you're doing other stuff. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of what martial arts gives you in terms of like a superpower, right? So what allows you to like split your brain during critical incidents, because like really what you're doing in a role is problem solving. This
Yeah.
person's desperately trying to break your arm, choke you, break your leg, right?
Yep.
And you not only are fighting that off, but you're working on an escape plan, trying to mount a counterattack, and trying to keep an eye on time and keep track of points. Like it's just kind of like you start to build this skill set, and that really only comes from jiu-jitsu. But like you can see it a little bit in other arts, but like there's no bones about it. Like jiu-jitsu is the king art. Like there's not any other, like you can't just go out and mollywop each other in MMA or boxing or kickboxing and like come back to hard training the next day.
No.
Where like you and I can close out gyms Monday and Tuesday and still show up to work on Wednesdays. Like it's not going to kill us.
And that is truly like one of those things with grappling, whether it be like wrestling, judo, or jiu-jitsu, like you can do those things and come out of them and still function. Whereas like if you get domed at striking, like you might not be thinking clearly.
Both judo and jiu-jitsu.
Just kidding.
Both judo and jiu-jitsu translate to like the gentle art.
Yeah.
What a crock of shit that is. Oh my God. Because if you get somebody who really bites, like you're gonna have a lingering like like my elbow hurts, or like if somebody like twists your ankle, like you can be like, fuck. Like
speaking of stuff like that, like two high-level grapplers at an open mat that I was at just recently. One is older, probably about my age, and like very deeply involved in jiu-jitsu and grappling, has been his entire life. Was rolling with a younger person who is also very deeply involved in MMA and jiu-jitsu, and he bit on a leg lock, and the person didn't tap, and he got 3 pops in and said, "Nope," let go, and said, "Our roll's done. I will not hurt you," and left that person mid-roll. Because at his age now, he was like, I'm not about that. He's like, younger me would have ripped it. He's like, older me is like, I've broken too many people. Like,
I do a lot of catch and release.
Yep.
Like,
And that's what I've noticed with like the higher belts.
Like I'll grab something and just kind of like, and the other thing is like it was something that honestly, he was either Mike Chaney or Jackson McCord.
Yeah.
Taught me at young blue belt. If I go for the tap, right? Then we reset to neutral.
Yeah.
And neither one of us explores. You don't get to explore an escape. I don't get to explore control into another position, right?
Yeah. What if this fails? What happens then? Yeah.
So like I can bite and like, and even as people tap, I will hold them, but I won't put any more pressure. I'll be like, work out, right?
Yeah.
That way we can keep it moving, right? And a lot of people get frustrated. They're like, oh, I tapped, like just restart neutral.
No.
And I'm like, like, okay, like, but I don't know the next time we're going to get in this position.
That's so the same person that left that roll with that other grappler, I've rolled with them, and they would let me tap, and then they would let me work out of it.
Yeah.
And it was like amazingly beneficial because this person's an elite leg locker, and I'm like I won't get this experience with anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's like cool, like that's what you're talking about.
That's
like
a
it was
cool-
catch and release. Like
It's a cool kind of like, form of trust that you get
Yeah.
as well. And shows like just like the beauty of jiu-jitsu, like
Yep.
and like the ability to like move that sliding scale of like I could end your whole idea of life right now.
Yeah.
And then bring it back down. Like
Yeah.
it's like can you imagine like if you do something active like a construction worker and you love grappling and you have somebody come in and bite a heel hook and now you can't do your job.
yeah, I mean you can't
Like it's why
couldn't stand or walk.
Yeah, like I mean, it's something that kind of scared me about learning leg locks as just in terms of their job, like because foot pursuits, and like stuff like that. Like, but thankfully, like Columbus has a really good scene of grappling that nobody's ever really out to hurt anybody, even in competition. Like I've seen some rips, but like there was some history there. Like there was a reason for it. Like, and I also understand that people get excited too.
Right.
But in terms of like doing what you need to for yourself is, again, especially I'm really speaking to like nurses and PCAs, like you have to be your first line of defense until the cavalry gets there, and then just step out of the way. Now that being said, some of the nurses that we in PCAs we work with, like they dive in to help, like especially when we're
Yeah.
losing, and I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know what you're doing, you're just you have the courage to like step forward and put yourself to the sword like that. Like that's a real boon sometimes when things are a little too much until other officers can get there. But
Yeah.
to just go through life and be like, oh, like somebody else will come save me. That is such a horrific. To me,
That's-
it's terrifying.
And not just that. That's like saying somebody else is gonna wipe your ass. Like that's not true.
But I guess
Yeah.
so. Maybe. I
Yeah.
guess. Like I don't know. Like it's kind of.
It come like this is the way I think of it. Like in that line, yeah, that was vulgar, but that was intentional. Like it was meant to like kind of be like, oh yeah, like, but nobody's like unless you physically can't do certain things, like, and you have the ability to, like at a baseline, if you work in a place or you work in a job that has the potential to have violence, understanding that you are in your own best interest to find something to protect yourself or have skin in that game where you are the first line, like critically thinking, even just critical thinking alone, like to protect yourself is a big one. Like understanding, like diving into knowledge about understanding threats and threat cues.
I think the big thing that I've really been thankful for in terms of like coming to work with you, like just how seriously I think you and I take stress testing,
Yeah.
like, is to see now even people who train, like they're like, oh, like I think this is what I would do, and then you and I like that might work. And
It might
then we
work,
try
yeah.
and then it completely fails,
Yeah.
and we take it back, and they're like, oh, like you probably just didn't do it right. Nah, man, like we tried that and it didn't work, so this is not viable. And like
Yes.
watching somebody who doesn't get to experience it in the real world
Yeah.
fail to compute, like this armchair quarterback, and like you're unfortunately like it's a great theory, but in practice it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And like to try to explain it, and again you kind of run into like we were talking about last week with ego.
Yeah.
The last episode, not last week, it's been weeks. So yeah, that knee was
To us, not you.
yeah. Like understanding that like it's cool to like throw out ideas, but like if you're not out there testing it, when somebody, especially if you trust us, like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go out there and like be like, oh, like that didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work because it didn't work.
I'm gonna have a reason for why it didn't work.
Yeah. And I probably
Like-
bring it back to you so we can workshop it because I liked your idea.
Yep.
And I want to make it work. So like, but if it like the big one that I always think of is when I first came in and we did that half Muay Thai clinch.
Yeah, like
And,
the
what
or
a
the
failure that was,
shoulder torque.
the shoulder crunch, standing for
Yeah.
for controlling. What me and another
Officer.
worker
Yeah.
got into it, and I was like, man, like this is not working at all. And we just ended up kind of like seesawing this patient because there's just too much, he had too much balance, there's too much control. I felt like I had control, but I couldn't, like there's just no communication. It just wasn't good. It didn't
Yeah.
work tactically for what we need to do in our job. And like watching people, like telling people, hey, we're not going to do that anymore, and the disappointment on their face because they felt safe. But like
Yeah.
you might feel safe in the moment, but like we can't complete the task.
Well, the other thing too is like we're modifying ideas away from
Applications.
either applications from law enforcement or applications from matted trained techniques.
Or, you know, what
Yeah,
martial
so it's
arts
like-
are for is
yeah.
true like self-defense. Like if I was out on the street, if I get you in half Thai clinch, your head is coming down and my knee's coming up quickly.
Right.
There's no way in law enforcement, in our job, especially with
Yeah.
multiple officers, that I could ever justify kneeing somebody in the face.
Nope.
Like maybe if they had a knife, but at the point that I get a Muay Thai clinch, like
Yeah. Like what are we?
I've failed so many other places. Like
Yeah, you're deep into it, and if you have multiple officers there and they're not helping, what are they doing,
yeah, exactly.
and why aren't they helping?
So like, and then
There's a lot of that there.
and then
Yeah.
taking like, oh, like I think this will work. Like it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah.
Thinking, like, oh, let's see if this works. And then,
Well, I
like,
mean,
I remember I was gonna try something new, and I was like, you got
Yeah.
this? you're next in, Tim.
Yeah.
Don't let somebody else in case this fails. And like,
Well, that's the thing too. Like even some of the stuff we started out doing, like wrist weave, or it's like a Greco-Roman like
Reverse
lockup. Yeah. Reverse
take a breath.
reverse Kimura position,
Standing.
standing as an escort position. Just like if you have any kind of like wrist pain, you have to switch to something else immediately. So we actually went to something, actually I guess it's more Greco-Roman, like it's grabbing your own wrist through that same position, just not weaving it under. And that has been like magic. I actually use that more in the gym than the other one.
Yeah.
Like I use it, test it against trained grapplers to get them to bend, to pick up like single legs, or like
Or just
cradling.
down to referees.
Yeah, cradling.
Referees
Yeah,
is a turtle and like
or I'll just go down into a cradle, tip them, and then run to the head. Like it works.
talk
Like
about using it. I use it the most from open sitting guard for an arm drag. Because
you'll just come up over and then
I'll get it,
yeah.
and then I'll let them get comfortable, and then you just arm drag them
out.
like it works so well because like they again, it's lulling them into like it's almost like once you train them that this is the grip now,
Yeah,
they forget about all the other things.
yeah.
So
I guess we should do a video kind of, I mean, we've done a video talking about our escort positions and stuff, which will come out before this, but I guess we'll have to talk. Yeah.
Mike Cheney,
Yeah. Mike Cheney. But yeah.
Professor Cheney, sorry.
Professor Cheney. Professor Boom Boom.
Oh no. Yeah. Guys.
Yeah. But yeah. So
Go ahead. I'm listening.
no, I was just going to say, like, I think we've milked this cow long enough to put it together. Like, you have to have skin in the game. You are the only person that can control your training. No magical fairy professor or teacher is going to come find you. It's not going to be like, you know, Kung Fu the legend. As you walk down the fucking road, some dude's going to come out and be like, you must be trained.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Like, you have to go find it.
And you have to find the right vibe. Like,
Yep.
There's some gyms that like are very open about like.
Yeah.
There's some gyms that don't even accept white belts anymore. Like.
Which is okay.
No, I mean it is like.
Yeah.
Like when Cheney does his thing, like I'm assuming there won't be very many white belts there. Like. Whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like I get it. I understand like.
Yeah.
Competitive gyms.
Well, I mean, what was it? B team didn't take white belts.
Was it B team?
Yeah, B team had no white. Like it was a comp gym. Now they opened it up because they need like a feeder system. But
Right. But I mean, that's fine. Like I'm not hating on
Yeah.
it in any way. Like, but I'm telling you, like you got to shop around. Like
yeah,
there's anyone who tells you they're the best, you should not train there.
nope. We're the best and we know everything.
They don't.
Doubt it.
They don't.
Yeah,
I promise they don't. And if they don't have multiple instructors competing, you definitely should find another gym. If it's Krav Maga, if you don't have multiple instructors doing the tests as well, if you don't see them constantly training, they're only teaching,
yeah.
you need to find a new gym.
And if they're not training multiple arts at a Krav Maga gym, probably not a good place to go.
Yeah, like there should be multiple arts
Yes.
at that gym.
Yes.
Where like the focus is there.
Yeah.
And
There should be kickboxing. There should be sparring. There should be boxing.
and they should
There should be jujitsu.
they
Like,
should be openly encouraging
Yes.
you, right? Like because the ultimate goal of any kind of self-defense or martial art is crafting the perfect thing for you, your body type, the way your brain works, like all that stuff, right? Like some guys just want to bang, and they're like, "How do I get better at this?" Go to wrestling and do nothing but sprawls. Have the best takedown artists try to take you down, and you do nothing but try to keep it standing, and then you can bang all day, right?
Yeah.
The old Chuck Liddell, right?
yeah.
So
no. Bop.
on the flip side of that, like don't get lured into like the sport side of grappling either. Like you don't ever want to be a gi jiu-jitsu player who's only ever pulled guard and never had somebody mildly strike at you.
You know,
Like you don't want that.
I do find it interesting. Yesterday, I got to talk with two like black belts that are high level grapplers, and they're from another state. And I didn't realize this, but I guess, you know, when there was really like a no, there was gi, and then if you didn't do gi and you did no gi, that was just MMA. I didn't realize that was the translation before. And now like the no gi culture is so prevalent. Like you don't. There's no.
It's such a weird thing to watch Snooki
Yeah.
go from like their redheaded stepchildren, and then like they gravitated towards leg locks, and then like, why don't you just do MMA? Like combat jiu-jitsu, I can't tell you how many times like I get told like, why don't you just go do MMA? I did MMA.
But they did that. Yeah, you did that.
Combat jiu-jitsu is way more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is way more fun, and you don't have to like it. That's why you're not doing it. But you certainly showed up and watched it. Like,
as far as like bang for your buck entertainment, like if you want strikes to be involved, you have to take somebody down and you have to be proficient, and then you have to protect yourself on the ground.
yeah, and
Like,
that's
that's,
another one.
yeah.
I like what like why don't you just do MMA? Because I don't want to get head kicked.
Yeah, yeah. Like
But I still would like to see some stripes. I'd like to like mix it up from like the thousands of grappling matches that I've had. Like this is something different. There's no and it's making me better in the long run. So like,
yeah, I was gonna say like the combat rounds we've done,
so much fun.
I get my ass kicked, but like I also understand like where I'm not covering from strikes and stuff like that.
It exposes you to the violence before you run into it in the seclusion room. Like,
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
like,
Or you catch a left hook to the
that
jaw.
was not a left hook. That was a left straight.
I'm sorry, I left straight to the jaw.
Southpaw,
Yeah.
rocked your shit, and it was amazing.
Yeah. It was a while ago.
Hilarious.
But yeah, I think that covers.
Yeah, I think this was already kind of a dry well. We talk about it in almost every one.
You can pee down it every once in a while and moisten
I'm
it.
still coming back.
Yeah.
I'm not mentally here right now. Or like this topic, just like it's kind of like you should eat your vegetables. We all know you should take care of yourself.
Yeah.
We know that. Do I expect you to? I expect 75% of you not to.
But if you want to point a finger, find a mirror.
Or like, I would have done this in that situation. I bet you wouldn't have. I bet that's not what happened.
That's a whole nother. That's like
That's
we
my
can
favorite.
stop and start another conversation right now about that.
Cliches of like what, like
Yeah.
I'd do this in that situation. No, you
Yeah.
fucking wouldn't.
Speaking of that, we're gonna end this right now. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye.